I am an alchemist. Affirmations to activate inner transformational powers. As a divine soul having a physical human experience, you are innately gifted with powers embedded in your DNA to alchemize, neutralize, and transform energies as a conscious creator being. Now is the time to recognize and activate. I alchemize stubbornness into willingness. I alchemize fear into love. I alchemize hate into compassion. I alchemize anxiety into joyful anticipation. I alchemize resentment into grace. I alchemize insecurities into motivators. I alchemize confusion into clarity. I alchemize brokenness into authentic wholeness. I alchemize revenge into mercy. I alchemize imbalance into balance. I alchemize jealousy into admiration. I alchemize lack into abundance. I alchemize addiction into self-mastery. I alchemize distraction into focus. I alchemize impatience into trust. I alchemize multitasking into concentration. I alchemize happenstance into alignment. I alchemize to-do lists into opportunities. I alchemize obligations into potentials. I alchemize separation into interconnectedness. I alchemize reaction into divine flow. I alchemize procrastination into joyful intention. I alchemize belief into knowing. I alchemize inauthenticity into authenticity. I alchemize discordance into harmony. I alchemize hesitation into discernment. I alchemize complaints into solutions. I alchemize challenges into probabilities. I alchemize obstacles into potentials. I alchemize impossible into possible. I alchemize conditional into unconditional. I alchemize blocks into allowance. I alchemize resistance into receptivity. I alchemize dis-ease into homeostasis. I alchemize inorganic into organic. I alchemize greed into spiritual commerce. I alchemize ignorance into awareness. I alchemize stagnation into evolution. I alchemize replication into expansiveness. I alchemize defragmentation into integration. I alchemize carelessness into mindfulness. I alchemize judgment into neutrality. I alchemize self-doubt into confidence. I alchemize ego mind into higher consciousness. I alchemize alienation into coexistence. I alchemize anger into peace. I alchemize avoidance into drive. I alchemize domination into equanimity. I alchemize lies into truth. I alchemize manipulation into co-creation. I alchemize nosiness into minding my own life. I alchemize belittling into edification. I alchemize blame into atonement. I alchemize dysfunction into accordance. I alchemize chaos into order. I alchemize cheating into win-win. I alchemize codependency into self-empowerment. I alchemize cognitive dissonance into gnosis. I alchemize conforming into self-acceptance. I alchemize consumerism into conscious creation. I alchemize criticism into compliment. I alchemize competition into benevolence. I alchemize delusion into reality. I alchemize deprivation into allowance. I alchemize depression into creative expression. I alchemize trials into triumphs. I alchemize escapism into presence. I alchemize gossip into silence. I alchemize failure into new perspective. I alchemize frustration into realignment. I alchemize grudges into forgiveness. I alchemize loneliness into self-acceptance. I alchemize labeling into noticing. I alchemize competition into inspired actions. I alchemize misery into joy. I alchemize inner critic into best friend. I alchemize overthinking into intuition. I alchemize negative inner dialogue into positive affirmations. I alchemize panic into emotional intelligence. I alchemize nervousness into calm. I alchemize arrogance into humility. I alchemize lowliness into courage. I alchemize overindulgence into moderation. I alchemize darkness into light. I alchemize pettiness into spiritual maturity. I alchemize powerlessness into divinity. I alchemize regrets into life lessons. I alchemize rejection into blessing. I alchemize self-deprecation into cheerleading. I alchemize control into surrender. I alchemize the past into now. I alchemize disappointment into resilience. I alchemize boundaries into boundlessness. I alchemize toxicity into life-affirming. I alchemize factions into cohesiveness. I alchemize hierarchy into community. I alchemize people-pleasing into self-fulfillment. I alchemize self-denial into self-love. I alchemize old into new. I alchemize complicated into simplicity. I alchemize self-sacrificing into self-prioritizing. I alchemize trauma into miracles. I alchemize delays into synchronicities. I alchemize offensiveness into reverence. I alchemize suffering into healing. I alchemize grief into celebration. I alchemize limits into limitlessness. I alchemize conditioning into free will. I alchemize finite into infinite. I alchemize paranoia into safety. I alchemize obsessions into inspirations. I alchemize self-sabotage into self-love. I alchemize guilt into honesty. I alchemize conformity into sovereignty. I alchemize powerlessness into authority. I alchemize uncertainty into wisdom. I alchemize all into love. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.